my name is Adriaan Hoogduin. I'm from the Netherlands and I'm the CEO of Hyarchis, a Dutch regtech company.
What's your favorite show right now on Netflix?
I actually just finished, so I'm in search of a new show, but I just finished Subura. It's a Italian crime series about how the underworld kind of mingles with the Vatican and the governmental world of the municipality of Rome. Actually, it's super interesting and nice cinematography, but as said, I just finished it, so currently watching nothing.
So you're looking for another detective kind of action series?
Yeah, it can differ quite a bit, but that typically is my genre on Netflix, kind of things that are interesting enough to learn something new, but at the same time watch away easily enough at night.
Yeah. Nice. What's your favorite app on the phone?
I would like to say something intelligent, such as my news app or something like that, but actually it's Instagram, especially during meetings. I really like to peek to see what's happening out there in the world where people are enjoying themselves and comes to me, buggering through my days. So that's kind of my, I think, favorite app, especially now the holiday season is there.
What was your favorite subject in school when you were a kid?
Actually, I've been like a super big history nerd all of my life, so it's still a big hobby of mine. So this is actually my by far favorite topic in school and always has been.
What period of history or all of history?
Yeah, so I'm particularly interested in cultural history and more specifically Renaissance and Baroque era are for me the most interesting eras, and then focus on the south of Europe, mostly Italy actually.
What did you study in university?
Yeah, so that's no surprise that I started with actually the education to become a teacher of history. I did it for 1 year to get my propedeuse, so I could go to the university. But then still, I went back to the University of Applied Sciences, and what I actually did was a specific Dutch study, which is focused on management, economics, and law. So that's also how the study is called in Dutch. So a very generalistic study in which you kind of get a hinge of everything without becoming an expert in anything. Sort of jack of all trade kind of studies.
All right, so now we'll talk about Hyarchis. I know that you're not the founder, but you're the CEO. Where did the idea first come from? What was the source of inspiration for Hyarchis?
Yeah, so Hyarchis is, as you said, I'm not the founder, so it was actually founded before I was even born, and as a matter of fact, before I would say 95, if not 99% of the people on board were actually born. So we're a young company, at least we are now today. We were founded in 1985, and we have been going to quite some cycles where we sort of reinvented the company, and I would say that I've had the last sort of reinvention of the company. But we started out with mainframes, then in the 90s we switched to hardware. At the end of the 90s we switched to software, and basically since that time we have been developing a document management system by ways of which we help big financial institutions to manage their data and more in particular their documents. And well, back in 2018 I myself came aboard. And around that time, I really felt that it was a very good system. We had a very nice list, I would say, or portfolio of customers. But the main thing lacking is that we were still approaching these documents kind of as a goal in their own right. And to me, a document only has value because of the information that it carries. So we started developing a whole new suite of products, which is actually focused on disclosing the contents of these documents and making that both manageable and editable for our enterprise customers, so that they basically have a data management as opposed to a document management system. So that's the latest reinvention, and of course we have a lot of data in our system. So back in the day it used to be called big data, now we call it data science or artificial intelligence, but that's basically the main three components of all the solutions that we're developing at Hyarchis right now.
We briefly talked about Hyarchis solutions. What's the core market?
Our market is mostly financial services, so the main markets, industries or verticals, whatever you'd like to call it, that we serve, they are banking, they are mortgages, they are accountancy, and they're life and pension. So these all are very, well, let's say regulated industries, so that's what they all hold in common, as well as the fact that they hold typically customer files for a long period of time that can even run into the decades, and that throughout those decades there's a lot of changes in regulatory requirements, and we basically help them to meet these regulatory requirements in a forever changing landscape of regulatory oversight. So that's the sort of core which unites all of the industries together.
There has been recently lots of regulation, additional regulation on European Union market, and can you please tell us more about those recent challenges that have occurred with additional regulation in the Netherlands in particular? in Europe in general?
Yeah, so it's typically what you see now is that the regulation with regards to, for example, anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism financing is getting a more and more international character in Europe, meaning that the European Union is dictating more of this regulation actually every day, and you see national translations thereof basically within the different member states of the European Union. And what we are particularly focused on with our solutions is to basically help our customers with KYC, AML, and customer due diligence type of challenges. And these are growing, actually exponentially growing, I would say, because there is a steady shift for the last 10 or 15 years from the, I would say, enforcement of the regulatory, basically oversight from the governmental institutions to the private sector. So what you kind of see is that financial institutions are increasingly held responsible for identifying criminals or actually people committing financial crime in between their customer base. And this is something that they're of course traditionally not equipped for, as it has been a traditional governmental task to fulfill. So this transition kind of from just a financial services provider to also a gatekeeper to the financial system, that's actually the transition that we help our customers with. And that's also, I think, one of the main, especially the last 2-3 years, there's like a big flow of news in this regard that is kind of grabbing a lot of headlines, not only in the Netherlands, but in, I would say, all of Europe.
Can you tell us a bit more about the transformation that the Hyarchis went through with you at the wheel?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I came aboard in 2018. So initially I was, back then I was still primarily running my own company here in Lithuania. And what I was doing, I was actually helping what we call here foreign investors to set up here in Lithuania. And one of them happened to be Hyarchis. And when the then owner, which also was original founder of Hyarchis, André van der Doelen, kind of crossed my path, the ambassador was the one who, the ambassador of the Netherlands here in Lithuania, who introduced the two of us to each other. And back then it was just about setting up a product development center. And that has kind of escalated, let's say, over the last few years, that we went from just a small development team working on our products. We actually went to having our marketing team, our finance team, our HR team, and our recruitment team all located here in Lithuania. So it happened to be a very fertile ground for us to grow further. And I think this really helped us to sort of form an international outlook as a company, because we were primarily communicating in English and borders became less and less relevant to us. So we also see that we, from that point on, as a really Dutch company, started to grow into an international company, not only by ways of our offices, but also by ways of the customers that we served. So we started addressing more European troubles, and we started acquiring customers in both Germany and Belgium. Currently work on our first customer in the UK. So we're growing internationally. I think that's a very important change if you look at the last 37 years in which we were predominantly a Dutch company. And the other big change I think that we've made is that we made the transition from, I would say, a relatively traditional software provider with our document management system, really transitioned into a more innovative fintech company that develops state-of-the-art technology for a problem that stands at the heart of our financial ecosystem.
Yeah, and as I've read through, as I understand, are you also employing artificial intelligence in the process?
Yeah, our artificial intelligence actually is the main, I would say, the main focus of our new product suite. So everything that has to do with regulatory compliance is basically fueled or powered by AI. So that's actually the core of all our new products. And previously we had this distinction between our traditional document management system and our AI solutions, but now we have all seamlessly merged it together into one single platform in which we allow our customers to both manage their data as well as their documents into one platform where we address all of the regulatory challenges that they face, and in particular in the field of KYC.
You've mentioned the change of the office, putting more gravity into offices in Vilnius from the Netherlands. And talking about that, I'm curious to hear, so how big is the team right now? And as a result, how many offices do you have?
Yeah, what is a fun thing? We're a relatively small company, so we're only 50 people strong at this moment of time. We're divided over 3 offices. So we got our customer-facing office in the Netherlands. That's where all our consultants, our business developers, and our project managers are working. We got our, I would say, technology hub in Kaunas, which is the second city of Lithuania, where all of our software developers and data scientists and DevOps engineers are working. And then we have a team here in Vilnius, which is the marketing team combined with what currently is our Comply team. And Hyarchis Comply is a product that focuses specifically on the accountancy market. So it's a market that we serve with the SaaS product, and actually that's also one of the big inventions of the last few years at Hyarchis. We have always primarily served big enterprise customers, so think about the top tier banks that we have in the Netherlands, and those banks always have a level of customization in their software, at least in previous times, and that's where Hyarchis actually was coming from. So we have all modernized that, brought it to the cloud and standardized that, but at the same time, as a spin-off thereof, we have developed our own SaaS proposition with which we're currently serving 420 accountancy firms in the Netherlands and growing at a rate of 20 to 30% every year there.
Going back to this change that Hyarchis went through, what would you say were the challenges that the company faced and how it overcame them?
We had quite a few challenges because we, well, first of all, I think in the setting up process, it's very interesting, you know, like going from a company which is located in one single location to being a co-located company, especially pre-COVID, when, you know, remote working wasn't that much of a standard as of yet, really required a sort of rethinking of all of our business processes and the whole way in which we used to collaborate in the business. So that was, I think, the very first challenge that we had to overcome in the whole reinvention period. The second one was that we had great ideas about what to do with artificial intelligence and how we could basically make our customers benefit from that. But it doesn't mean that customers, without having a single line of code on paper, are willing to already pay for that. So that funding needs to come from somewhere. So we were lucky to basically get, you know, to collaborate with universities here in Lithuania. And based on that collaboration, we actually received a smart FDI funding from the European Union in total of over $1 million that really helped us in the development of these products. So that was a very important challenge for us to overcome there, so the funding in the beginning. And I think at this point of time, we have been going through this reinvention phase in which we created these new products. They are running with a lot of our customers, and we're actually, based on our proposition, getting a lot of new customers in all of the different industries that we serve. And there we really see that the transition is going from, you know, sort of, I would say, startup kind of company that is seeking validation for its product within the market. We're really going to a phase where we need to, you know, manage to scale basically what we have built so far, and that requires a whole different skill set. And that's where I think, you know, we have a lot of growth pains that with the people that we have on board, we have reached a sort of limit to where we could push the company. And now you see that we have, you know, a necessity to find new people who can help us to really get to the next level kind of with the company, and finding the right people that, you know, sort of fit into the culture that we've created all together, and at the same time are capable enough to bring us to that new level. Yeah, this is a very interesting challenge that we're facing at this particular moment in time.
Yeah. The Hyarchis collaborated with the universities.
Right.
Would you say that this collaboration, let's say, advisable for other companies who will be in the same situation?
Yeah, I think in general, like with Hyarchis, yeah, we're investing a lot into the ecosystem. So it's not just universities. We, for example, also have our own data science academy with which we train people basically to get into the field of data science. It could be people who cross over from completely different professions to university students who are interested to learn more about data science. We participate in all sorts of mentorship programs. So for example, we have a program here in Lithuania called Women Go Tech, in which we participate. We have a lot of interns always in the companies. We're very focused on not only collaborating with places that, you know, where you can find a lot of talent or talent is concentrated, but also we actively nurture kind of, you know, the ecosystem, I would say, and enthusiast people to become a part of our fintech ecosystem here. Yeah, and other than that, I have to say it's just a lot of, you know, as it goes PR kind of, you know, that we're doing. We're investing a lot in our employer brand, which is, at sometimes it feels even as important as our product-related marketing, because the war for talent is real, especially since the pandemic. You see that a lot of bigger, let's say, international tech companies have moved into the markets that we've been recruiting with Hyarchis, and that puts a lot of competition in there, and then you really need to be able to offer something in addition to just the salary, which a lot of these remote only companies are offering. But that remains a battle, to be honest.
What does a typical day look like at Hyarchis?
It's interesting to ask me, because my days are always very packed with meetings, basically. So these are my days. I think for the teams, what we really stimulate in the company is like a very cross-functional approach. So we try to break barriers between different type of silos, so to make sure that people are not only looking from a singular perspective to their work. So we don't only want to have, for example, the support engineer to look just from a support perspective, but also from a product roadmap perspective to each of the issues flowing in. We, for example, want our engineers not only to look at the product from a technological, but also from a functional point of view. And therefore, we really strive for short feedback loops in which we try to put people together in functional teams, which focus on, for example, a particular group of enterprise customers, could even be a particular industry, or a particular product, such as our SaaS product, so Hyarchis Comply that I mentioned before. So these are, for example, the ways in which we organize the team. So that means there's a lot of collaboration. I think there's a lot of learning going on for the people on a daily basis about sort of insights and perspectives on the way we work and what we're doing every day within those teams. So that means that our people are having lots of calls. I think they're being, like the people here, we work quite a lot from the office still. So I think there's lots of basically meetings taking place in person. What our people typically do, go for lunches together, go for activities together. And that's kind of, I think, what a typical day at Hyarchis looks like. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Well, it does answer the question.
Right.
It sounds very nice. What do you look for in people when you're hiring them?
Yeah, so as I said before, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. So I was no expert, and I'm no expert in particular in any topic. So the main criterion that I can judge people on is the character, and especially in, I would say, so I've been running Hyarchis now for the last 4 years, which has been essentially sort of our startup phase, I would say. And I think always when you're grinding to get to that point of validation, I think the mentality is everything, really. I think hard skills can be, I wouldn't say easily taught, but they can be quite easily learned generally. And from my point of view, I'm also always looking for the type of mentality, really, that pushes the product and the company further and creates the kind of culture which attracts more people who really want to put in that extra mile, because it benefits not only the company but also their professional careers and their professional aspirations. So that's kind of the kind of culture that we're trying to create, like a very clear trade-off in the putting in the extra mile for the company and getting the personal reward. So a very strong work hard, play hard kind of mentality, and that's what we've been creating so far. And that's also what I primarily look for in people, to be honest. And so far, that's going pretty okay. But as I said, we're scaling, which means that we now have, apart from our board, also a management layer where people need to take their own independent hiring decisions. And the interesting part is that these decisions wouldn't always be mine, but it's also something you need to accept when growing as a company, that people have their own autonomy to make these type of decisions, sometimes also allowing people therefore to make their own type of mistakes, something I consider to be sort of learning money, so to say, basically a price to pay in order to grow the experience within the teams and to improve also firsthand their decision-making process. So yeah, but me personally, mentality is everything.
Yeah. Compliance and the regulations have been tightened up, especially with the data, such as GDPR. And I wanted to ask how Hyarchis is basically adapting to this. So, for example, you found out that there are going to be hearings in the European Parliament about this, or the new regulations will come up. Is there some kind of action plan to adapt, or in case if you have to adjust something in your product, or in case of, okay, we anticipated this. So how is it usually happening?
Yeah, so I think in the market, like the only constant here is change, because the regulatory environment is continuously changing and has always been doing so over the past few years. And that's also, I think, the way in which we have always approached that. As a technology provider, we very much see ourselves as a facilitator. So we provide a data management framework in which the exact level of governance or the tightness or the strictness or whatever you like to call it, we typically leave up to our customers. So we're not having a necessarily, let's say, authoritative opinion about how to, for example, comply with GDPR and what data points, for example, to cross out, in a customer file and which ones to keep. This is a decision that ultimately lies with the data owner. We of course do suggestions there, but we basically see our strength to be able to provide different, let's say, levels of tightness and strictness with regards to governance in the field of regulatory compliance. And that's basically how we approach this. So we're trying to steer clear from very authoritative kind of interpretations of new legislation, leave that up to our customers. But of course, what we do is we collaborate very closely with our customers. So we have a peer group of our most important customers where we basically discuss with them upcoming changes, basically find some sort of middle ground of what would work for the biggest group of customers that we have, so to build the most reproducible and scalable product that we can develop or enhance specifically for this group of larger enterprise customers, and then typically wrap that up in the SaaS proposition that we ship to the, I would say, larger part of the market of companies which are not typically the first movers but are looking to the big parties and basically what they are doing in order to follow them. So that's kind of how we develop our products typically. So we do that in very close collaboration with our customers.
Which regulator is it's most important to keep an eye on?
Yeah, so that very much depends, of course, on what particular industry you're active. But I think that the regulating bodies, there are few of them basically in all of the countries which we serve. So you essentially need to keep an eye on all of them, and I think that the most important thing is also to really keep an eye on what is upcoming, let's say, on a more international level. So to look basically at trends that are happening above the national level, because that is like increasingly the place where new regulation is taking shape. And I think this cross-border approach is becoming forever more important. Also, if you're a company that is looking to have a scalable product or scalable service, so that you want to potentially ship internationally, then this is something that is very important to keep an eye on.
Now we're going into more of kind of educational, inspirational territory.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things going on, as we just discussed, specifically with the regulation changing all the time. What would you say, what inspires you personally to, keep up the good speed, the keeping up the attention to the changing environment?
Well, this to me, happens to be my hobby horse, which sort of happens to be my my work at the same time. So I'm lucky, I guess, in that way. But actually, like with another company that we have here in Lithuania, we're bordering a elementary school, and it's a private school. And actually, like recently, I was walking the staircase, and I encountered the headmaster of the school, which is like a super cool guy. But in any case, he dropped a little gem, that I sort of stick with me ever since that time. And what he said to me, because I asked him, so how's the day going? Busy with work? Is when you're working on your passion, it's not really work, is it? And so I thought it was a very nice, casual gem that he dropped down there in the staircase on, I don't know, like just a random weekday. So it was like a very nice thing that he was saying. So for me, very much, like it feels like the environment that we're in, it might sound very boring to a lot of people that are not involved at all in regulatory compliance, but to me it touches the very heart of our financial ecosystem. It also ties into a lot of interesting topics which sometimes become relevant because of very unfortunate circumstances, such as the war in Ukraine, for example, which is going on. If you then think about sanctions that need to be enforced on certain people or people of a certain nationality, in that case, it's very relevant to what extent you can be efficient as a society to enforce such sanctions in order to have the desired effect, which is way broader than just the financial ecosystem alone. And that to me, makes it very tangible, makes it very much come to life of what it is that we're working for on a daily basis. And these are also the things I happen to be passionate about.
Yeah. That's very nice. So, what would you like to share with people who are managing companies in a similar growth phase, facing challenges? What would you advise?
Yeah, so with us, I think what I touched upon earlier, so we're now in this phase where we, we're all as young hounds kind of pushing through this newest reinvention of Hyarchis in the last few years, which we brought to a certain point. And basically at that point, I think it's very important that you don't let pride stand in the way of progress. So I think it's very important to find a safe pair of hands, as I call it. So basically people who know what they are doing and know how to basically help you to get through a certain stage within your growth as a company, and have, for example, done that elsewhere, or have gained that experience from a company that already went through that phase and can basically bring that to you. It really helps to save a lot of time and to prevent a lot of mistakes from happening in a phase which is very crucial, because I really believe that, like in this sort of growth phase, there's a lot of turns that you can take as a company, and also as a management team or as a board or whatever level, even as an employee basically. And these are very determining moments kind of that decide whether you're going to have, just a, I would say, more moderate growth towards the future, or you're going to have a very aggressive growth towards the future. And I think it's very important that you don't sort of start seeing it as a necessity, that you keep on that you stick, let's say, to the same group of people with the same set of skills and the same knowledge, in order to try to bring it to a level that no one to a territory no one has charted yet. And it's very helpful to get people on board for that, who can help you through. And that's something that I see happening a lot around me. Is something that people typically wait too long with. And I would really say, make that sooner rather than later. So make sure you have that scalable foundation and start building then, and don't keep on pushing to the moment that you get stuck.
Describe Hyarchis in 3 words.
That's a very good one. I would say it's a very fun place. It's a very dynamic place, and I think we are very entrepreneurial.
Fun, dynamic, entrepreneurial.
I would say so. Yeah.
Nice. And fill in the blank. Next year, Hyarchis will
be active in 4 countries in Europe.
Very specific.
It's one of the main things we're working on right now, so that's why I can be that specific.
Well, thank you so much for participating.
Oh, thank you.
I'm looking forward to see great news from Hyarchis.
Well, thanks for being here with us in Vilnius, Lithuania.
It's a beautiful city.